Welcome to Art Chats con la Mitotera. I'm your host, Mel Dominguez. I'm going to say 3 words about our guest right now. Desert life, mindfulness, and naturopathic doctor. Our guest is Dr. Libia Luevano. She's a naturopathic doctor, and we have her joining us today to talk about a little bit about how she practices and what she's here to share with us.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Oh, it's so nice
How are
to
you
see.
doing today?
I'm good. It's nice to see you. So I was trying to tell people a little bit about you, and I started with the 3 words: desert life, mindfulness, and naturopathic. Can you tell us about what you do?
Sure. I'm a naturopathic medicine doctor or a naturopathic doctor. I like to help people in their path to health. The way that I approach it is through helping them get to the root cause of whatever is going on in their life. And a lot of times it's physical, sometimes it's emotional. Um, and my preference is to help them through diet, exercise, and botanical medicine.
Wow, that's something I need right now because I'm on that quarantine lifestyle right now where I don't even know what day it is technically.
Yeah, no, the days just bleed one into the next.
Yeah, so the types of folks you see are they're looking to do more naturopathic as opposed to like eating a pill every 3 hours.
So, yes, most of the patients that I see tend to not really want to take a pharmaceutical medicine. I can prescribe most of them, particularly the ones for chronic health diseases. Um, but most of them don't want to do that. They want to try other things and to see if they can not have to take those things and to have a longer lasting effect from something that they can do on their own.
Yeah. And
And part of that is empowering my patients for their own health.
yeah, no, because I mean, even with their other organs, because your organs get affected by all the stuff you're digesting, and so some of these pills
Absolutely.
are right.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny you should mention that because a lot of people, for most of us, our main organ system that I tend to work with a lot is our digestive system because so much of our health is tied up into how we're digesting food and whether we're absorbing the nutrients we're eating. Um, or if because sometimes when you're not, then that's kind of what causes inflammation long term. That can cause a lot of those like issues down the line, like high blood pressure or diabetes or insomnia. Like there's just so much stuff going on. But diet is super important. And when I say diet, I don't necessarily mean I'm going to put people on a diet. It's more encouraging people to eat healthy foods that are the least processed that you can. And I'm not saying that you should forever be that way and not ever eat any of those other foods because some of those foods are yummy, but then you should treat them as nice treats for like, hey, maybe you've had a really rough week, but you've been good dietarily wise for most of the week, so then you get a little bit of a treat. And that way you can also eat it guilt free.
This is true. This is absolutely true. I'm super pumped because I got a hold of a little trailer, so I'm planning to put it on my bike and take off with my little animals so they're not by.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, but when you talk about like diet, it's 3 times a day.
It depends on the person. So some people do really well with. I know right now one of the trends is intermittent fasting, where people are having this shortened period of time where they eat. And so for some of those people, that can mean eating twice. For some people, that might mean eating 3 or 4 times, but in a shortened period. It just kind of depends on how your body tolerates the way that you eat and what you're eating at those times.
Yeah, you know what? I've actually started to notice, well, because we're at home, we're like, oh, let's buy snacks or, have things stashed here at home. I noticed that stuff like the hot chili Cheetos, it has an
Yes.
effect. It actually has an effect on me, and I realized that from the little candies, the hot tamales, the cinnamon ones.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's
Yeah.
something about that red food coloring that I have a problem with, and haven't touched it in like a couple weeks, and I feel a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. So when you're eating those processed foods, you could be reacting to so many different things. Like maybe there's too much sugar in there. There's so many, very many dyes in those processed foods. Um, or like maybe it's just not a type of food that your body tolerates really well.
I think it's
So yeah, we just have to consider all of that when you're anything that you put in your system, whether that's maybe like the stuff that you use on your skin or like your shampoos or even
oh
what you're
man,
eating.
you can make me rethink my shampoos. No, but you're absolutely right because it happens with the detergent that whenever we're washing something, or like if it could be something very minimal, but there's a reaction to it. I had a question.
Yeah.
Tell me about chamoy. What is that stuff?
Chamoy is a bunch of sugar and salt and food colorings. So if you want to have a somewhat healthier form of chamoy, make it yourself. It's really easy to make. And the coloring that's in there is natural because it's coming from the hibiscus, from the Jamaica.
Ooh, you see,
It does It does still have a lot of sugar, so it's not something that I'd necessarily recommend to people to have every day, but at least it's so much healthier than buying the store-bought stuff.
see, and I asked this question because the majority of the folks that I know, they love like hot Cheetos, they like the chamoy. I'm talking about myself especially. And and I could tell when we're out of something, or Melissa's like, we're not going to the store, which by the way, she was giving me a look like, why are you asking about chamoy? I'm asking because that's in some people's diets. And there's
Yeah.
things out there that are listening that they're like, what the hell is chamoy? So thank you for explaining that to us,
Yeah.
because it was like the mystery of mysteries. I was like, yeah, what is there a chamoy tree? Or
No, there's online if you Google it. There's recipes and it's apricots, prunes, sugar, chili, lime and orange juice, and a bunch of Jamaica. And so if you make it yourself, it's really easy to make. And you just have to spend a little bit of time to make it, and it keeps for a very long time. And it's so much healthier than buying the bottle you can at the grocery store.
there's some other dietary stuff. Like right now, we went to the supermarket and we helped ourselves to some good stuff. If you were shopping for friends and you were gonna give us something that would, in this quarantine moment, like where we need this energy to like sit at our desk and work from home, what would you recommend that we would start as a breakfast and like a lunch and a dinner?
The main thing that I recommend as far as energy, so that you have sustained energy and not getting hungry every couple hours, is not eating sugar or eating very little of it, eating protein with every meal. So when I say protein, that could be an egg, it could be a handful of nuts, it could be a nut butter, yogurt if you tolerate dairy or whatever other form of yogurt you find that you do tolerate. Um, it could be, I think I said eggs. It could be a little piece of ham, of like some healthy ham. It doesn't necessarily need to be animal protein if that's not what people gravitate towards. Beans are a great source of protein,
Yeah,
or even a protein powder.
something. I'm on just because I feel like just being home, there's no change. Like I went to the studio and I came back home. I'm like, I'm at work all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just no change in your routines for the day, which can make it a little bit of a like brain fatigue. Because we need those variances in our day to cause a little, to kind of challenge us a little bit. And we're not challenged in the same way that we are when we have to go from one place to the next.
Right? Which reminds me, that's where I like that little note. Did you put plants and nature have been my refuge?
Yes.
So you,
Yeah, so I've been having fun hanging out with my dog. Usually I'm trying to take her for walks. Not every day. I don't always have the time. But a minimum of once a week, and we just go and walk, do some laps. But I'm getting all that and energy and like information from the trees and the wind and like the people that we walk by. And it just keeps me alert in a different way. And then if I'm not able to do that, then I was talking to you that I have chickens. And so we did have a handful of them before. We're unfortunately down to one, but we created this nice little oasis for them. So I get to at least twice a week hang out with my chicken and like water all those trees and go and talk to them. And I get some sunlight while I'm doing it, and I get the beautiful Arizona heat hitting my skin and the wind hitting my skin. So it's just a really nice way to relax in a different way. I'm often barefoot, so in that way, it also helps me to ground and to center. I have noticed that, especially through this spring, if I don't spend a certain amount of time outside, then I start getting really restless. And so it's once I figured out that what I needed was nature time, it's just really nice to go outside and hang out with my chicken if I need to.
I need a chicken to hang out with. I was actually I was actually thinking of getting some goats so they can help me with the weeds and just kind of like.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually considered getting little pygmy goats.
Oh,
Except they would probably eat all of our good stuff too, and not just the weeds.
I know, but I have. Well, I'll tell you that story later. You know what? I really loved when you came to our shop, and it was during the Mariposa book tour. It was so neat
Uh-huh.
because I didn't realize. I was like, wait, you're gonna go in there and talk to folks inside the little Mirena trailer?
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Um, Selena did such a great job making it such a cozy space. Um, but the way that I intended, so I had like a little intention going on through my head as I prepared for that day, because I had never done that before, was just to listen and to listen with compassion without judgment, and so that people could have the freedom and the safety to get whatever they needed to get off of their chest. And I think the first young woman that I talked to really had something heavy to get off of her chest. And so I feel like that was a very healing and cathartic experience for her. Um, but everybody I talked to that day had something like maybe even like, because I know a couple of my friends went and we just kind of chatted together. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and that can be really healing to just have this like charla, like, with your comadre, and just like, even if it's just chisme, then at least we're still talking and getting our social activity in. But yeah, it felt like a really open, safe space for people to just talk about what they needed to talk about with me.
It would be really cool. We could do that for people on the regular. You know what I mean? Like you have a little
Right.
place and just talk to them. And like how you said, like they might just need to chit chat. You know.
Yeah. I think the hardest part I had that day was just not going into doctor mode, because I wasn't seeing them as patients. I was seeing them as humans that needed a human touch.
Exactly. And you know what? You also made the aloe vera salve, the little the little gel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What got you into
That
doing
was
that?
really fun too. Um, I really gravitate towards herbal medicine. I feel like as Mexican people, we have indigenous ancestry in our genes. So we mesh really well with herbs. So whenever I give an herbal remedy, and that could be like a tincture, it could be a cap, it could be a tea. Oftentimes, I will start with teas if it's something that for somebody that needs something really gentle. We respond to them so much better than some of my other patients who don't have some kind of indigenous ancestry. Um, and I just always felt really drawn towards botanical medicine once I started medical school. I can't really say that it was something that was on my radar beforehand, but once it just really vibed with it really easily. Um, and yeah, so I find that I respond much better to the herbs that I'm surrounded by. So aloe vera is this yerba that we've had in our community and from our culture for such a long time. So it was actually really cool to figure out something really easy to show people that they can do at home. And talk a little bit about how it's used culturally and how it's been used in like in the more Western type medicine, and what are some of the uses for it and why they use it for that, and what are the parts of the plant that help you in certain ways, and like say for your gut or for skin, or and some of them are similar.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And those things grow like crazy.
Yes, they do.
I'm like, you don't even have to water some of them. I'm like, how does this still
No.
grow?
And some of them, if they don't get enough sunlight, they don't look happy. So they require a lot of sunlight.
Yes, it's really amazing. But there's different types. I've noticed that some don't give that little flower that comes out of the center.
Hmm.
That, are they different medicines? Are they both medicines?
They're both medicines. They're slightly different, but they're both medicines. It's just different varieties of the same species.
Okay. I'm still learning a lot of stuff out here in the desert. I was like, man, I thought that thing was dead, and it's still alive, you know. But it's been really
Yeah.
fun. But I felt the same way too, being in quarantine, like having to go out there and just really like listen to the trees move in the wind and see. And I've actually seen a lot of trees really like burst this past week, just like with growth. You know, are you from here originally?
I'm not from here originally. I've been here most of my life though. So I consider myself a Tucsonan.
Oh, right on. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Chihuahua.
All right.
My dad's from Chihuahua, my mom's from Sonora, and my brother was born here. But yeah, no, I've lived here most of my life.
Wow, that's cool. My partner, her family's from Chihuahua, so that's pretty cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and you know what? It is beautiful to like remember the things that was in my grandmother's kitchen, and you're like, why does she have so much stuff? Like, what does she make with all this? And now I know what they are. Like, manzanilla. Is that how you say it?
Hmm.
What
Yep,
is it?
manzanilla.
Is that just chamomile?
It's chamomile, yeah. It's it's such a great little herb. It can be really calming, but at the same time, it kind of gives you a little brightness, and it's like you're being hugged very warmly by this bright little herb. And you just feel a little bit better whenever you drink it. At least I do whenever I drink it. And it's really, really, really great for your GI tract. So it helps with digestion, especially if there's some discomfort.
Oh man, I didn't know that. I know they also have the yerba buena.
Hmm. Yeah, the yerba buena is a brightener in a different way. So it's a little bit more of an alert kind of brightener, but it's also good for like if you're really gassy.
Oh, hey, is that where you give it to me? That's hey man. I just realizing some things. But you know what? I feel like I was just such a silly kid. Like I didn't realize the Spanish and the English. I just thought that there was just one language, all the straight away across, and that Yerba Buena wasn't like what spearmint, things like that. I was like,
Yeah,
"Hmm,
yeah.
I still feel that way. But anyways,
No, even myself, I went to a plant walk not too long ago, and the herbalist said, "Oh, this is really a popular herb in Mexican culture," and it was estafiate, and I had always heard about estafiate, but I didn't realize that that's called mugwort in the U.S. And so, like, I've heard of mugwort a lot, and I just never made that connection until he pointed that out for us. So it's different because we have such a different connection to herbs. And I feel like even though my professional life, it's all in English, like I feel like the language of my heart is Spanish. So a lot of stuff that makes more sense to me was stuff that I learned when I was a kid, and there was no language for it in English.
right? There was it. I just didn't. It's so amazing. That's why I hope that this provides some information for folks listening in if they didn't know some of the things that you just mentioned. Because it's wild for me. I'm still learning. Melissa knew what you were talking about. I was like, what? But her grandpa and her grandma, they know about farming and herbs. They had a rancho down there. So she knows more than me. I was in the city while I was growing up. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I see everything in a package. I'm like, you know. Also, during the quarantine, have you seen any new patients?
I am seeing new patients. I'm seeing patients for like regular stuff, I would say, and as far as patients with virus, we are not seeing anybody with active infection because our PPE or personal protection equipment is still on back order because we're a small clinic and they're giving preference to the hospitals, which is as it should be. Um, but yes, I'm still seeing new patients. Let's see, I've seen somebody for hypertension. I see a lot of, or for high blood pressure. I see a lot of women in particular
Oh,
with for thyroid issues. It just kind of depends. My weeks are very variable in terms of who I and what I see people for. Um, but yeah, no, I've been pretty busy, thankfully.
yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, because everybody needs a little bit of this, what you just sharing with us, like
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that word mindfulness, and a lot of times that
Mhm.
escapes me. You can ask the people at the Cardenas market. But seriously, I've been trying to think about that a little bit more because sometimes I just feel like, oh, my right's the right way, and or I know better or something, and I kind of force things over. I need to stop and be mindful about it,
Right.
think it through and think peacefully. And maybe why am I getting myself another job when I have like two jobs I gotta finish? So it's just,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like you were saying, that this is the time that we can actually like rest.
Yes. So I think part of what this quarantine, like part of whatever's happening with why we're in this space and time is we got addicted to being busy. And so if you're busy, you don't give or allow yourself the time to really slow down and think about why you're doing the things you're doing. And number one, and number two, are those things really working for you? And so part of being slow is it gives us that chance to be mindful about, well, what am I doing today? What is my plan? Why am I doing this? Does this resonate with how I want to live my life long term? Because if you're doing something that you maybe grudge doing every day, but that you're doing it because the story you're telling yourself is that that's what people want you to do. Or maybe when you grew up, that's what the expectation was for you, but that's not what you really want to do. Then maybe right now is the time to like look deep and figure out what you can do or like what steps you can take to move in that direction you need to. Um, and also being mindful of not just our physical selves, which is really what people think of when they think of medicine, but also for me, it's really important that we're taking into account what your emotional self is, what your psychic self, um, what's going on there, and then a little bit of spiritual. We're all related, so we're not just our physical body. There's other portions to what we call our self that need to be addressed for overall health. And so being mindful really helps us to address all three and how they fit together.
Yeah, no, wow. Even that, hearing that gave me some peace. I was like, you know, but everything that you pretty much mentioned to me is like they're just simple things, real like just real simple thought process, like and just thinking it through and like taking it really slow and easy, like, everything. I hope that I hope I can do this and check back in with you to let you know how I'm
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, of course.
'Cause it's
I mean,
simple
it could
things.
be something as easy as taking 3 deep belly breaths when you wake up. And you just think, okay, I'm ready, I'm awake, thank you, I'm awake today. What am I going to do today that is going to be for my best purpose or my higher self or whatever that process looks like for you? Because I know that's slightly different for everybody and how they interpret their spirituality and their mental emotional health. So, whatever that process is for you, just 3 deep breaths every morning and maybe even 3 deep breaths right when you go to sleep or when you're getting ready to go to bed so that you kind of get yourself in this like helping your body to be in a relaxed space for proper rest.
Hell yeah. I'm all, man, I'm like, why didn't I meet you earlier in my life? No, but earlier in my life, way earlier, like, man, it's because some of those things are really simple. And a lot of times I catch myself doing that where I forget to breathe. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I forgot to breathe. Like, how silly is that? But it's a real thing.
Yeah. it is a real thing, and it's actually really common, or people who just breathe very shallowly. And no, it's so important to breathe all the way to your belly because you are stimulating the part of your nervous system that helps with relaxation. And if you're helping with relaxation, then you're also helping with digestion. So if you're always in this like heat up, busy space where you don't give yourself time to relax, then you're probably having some digestive issues, even if you don't realize that that's what's going on.
Wow. You see what I'm saying? Oh, you know what I heard too was like when people yawn a lot, it's because they need to get air to their brain.
Yeah, they need more oxygen to their brain. Yeah.
And then I thought that was so random. I was like, is that why Melissa's always yawning? Oh my God, dude. Yeah, she doesn't have enough rest. She claims whatever. But, but I wanted to ask too, like, who are the folks you're trying to reach? Who are the ones that you really think that need this? If they've never been exposed to, like, who do you want to reach?
Um, my goal as a daughter of this city, as a daughter of immigrants, when I went to med school was I want to reach other people like me. I want to reach other brown people because honestly, there's not a whole lot of us brown doctors, period. Much fewer brown naturopaths. So if I can help my fellow brown folks with their health, and it could be, I mean, it could be anything from fatigue or digestion or whatever. That's really the people that I am hoping to reach that are looking for an alternative to the conventional system because a lot of times it doesn't work for us. Um, and so I give them a different way. I I consider myself a guide in your path to healing. So I'm not doing the healing. I'm just kind of helping you see where that needs to come from you.
So, what's the name of your clinic?
The name of the clinic is Blue Oak Clinic. I work with two other naturopaths. Um, they went to a different school than I did, but we're all naturopaths. And there's also an acupuncturist, and he's great.
Oh, that's super. Where is it located?
It is on Pima near Alvernon. It's just east of Alvernon.
Very cool. If they're looking for you here on Instagram, what's your Instagram handle?
My Insta handle is Dr. Libia Luevano. So Dr. Libia Libia Luevano Luevano.
That's awesome. No,
And
oh,
I just want to warn people, I'm not super active on Instagram yet. That is one of those things that I know that I have to do to help with my own process through this life.
what's the best way to contact you?
To contact me is probably to call the office. I don't, or you can message me through Instagram.
Okay, cool.
I have a Facebook account that I'm even less active there than I am through Instagram, so that's probably not the best way to get in touch with me. But if you can message me through Instagram or call the office if you want to either make an appointment or if you want to make sure that we're going to be a good fit to each other, you can always set up a 15-minute consult. Like a little, just to see. It's kind of like having a little speed date to see if it's going to be a good match.
I love that. See everything. That's so cool. I'm like, this is really cool. I think I needed to hear you talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
and there's one more question. When you're looking for inspiration, where do you go? Where do you find your inspiration?
Hmm. It kind of depends on my mood. I will often I'll go outside, I'll go hang out in my yard, or I'll go to the park. Or sometimes I need to exercise if I'm feeling a little bit of in a funk. Um, there are certain people that I look for on YouTube usually to listen to just because they have a lot interviews with people that I gravitate towards. And they're people that helped pull me out of an emotional funk when I had it a few years ago. So it just kind of depends on why I feel like I'm in a funk, or if there's a particular energy that I'm looking for inspiration.
Yeah, no, you know what? I interviewed somebody and they talked about having a funk too. Like it was just a moment where they just like writer's block, like boom, and they
Yeah.
couldn't do anything. How did so when if someone gets in a quarantine funk, is there something that you can like? Is there like should we like Palo Santo or like should we drink? Which
Well, yeah,
drink is
I
good?
think if you're in a funk during this quarantine, which is really easy to do because we're not used to being still, number one, but we're also not used to not seeing each other. Humans are social beings, even those of us that are introverts. We need to hang out with people every once in a while. Maybe not as often as you do, um,
I
but
tried.
you do. Um, but yeah, I think that yes, smudging can be super helpful, especially if like you feel like there's more of a heavy cloud over you. Um, but I really like the honestly the basics: sunlight, fresh air, um, fresh foods, and teas. Like I really gravitate towards teas. I've been drinking teas most days these days. Whether that's like lemon balm I really love, or toronjil, chamomile, the spearmint, the peppermint. I've been drinking a lot of like the spicy ones, which is really
Ooh,
interesting because then that really means to me maybe my digestive system needs a little bit of help, and that's why I'm craving the spicy stuff like chai, or something with cinnamon. Like there was this one day that I just like, oh, I'm gonna make myself a big batch of cinnamon tea, and that was really nice to kind of like pull me out of whatever mood I was in that day as I was preparing to go to work. But I really like teas. They are great. There's one that's called Skullcap. I don't know what it's called in Spanish. But it's also one of those like a little bit of sunlight in your day in
ooh.
like tea form. And chamomile is always great. So manzanilla is always great. Um, the té de tila, the siete azares, those are also great. Or like any kind of sleepy time tea, because all of those herbs are relaxing. But really, what they're doing is they're helping to relax your nervous system a little bit so that you're going into more that relaxation instead of being all amped up and keyed up. So, those are some that I like. And citrus fruits. I love citrus.
But that's cool. I think that people need to know that we can actually grow some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Those herbs grow really well in pots,
Mhm.
or in planters as long as you make sure that you're watering them well and that they're getting sunlight, but not too much because some of those don't tolerate sunlight very well. So what out in the chicken coop, we planted some rosemary, and then we also planted some oregano. So
Mhm.
part of what I like to do is just run my hands through the rosemary, and you get a whiff of that, and it's just kind of like an instant brightener. It's like a nice little pick me up if you need something like that. And the same thing with oregano. They're just such fragrant herbs. Um, but it is kind of like a mental pick me up. So I like doing that too.
Do you put honey in your tea?
I put a little bit of honey. So how I feel about sweetening tea is it should be sweet enough that you can tolerate it, because some of those herbs can be a little bitter, but not so sweet that it tastes sweet.
Okay. I'm the opposite. I have like a spoonful of honey. Scoop the whole thing in there. And there's a beauty to the desert, which I know that's a lot of the medicine too. Is just getting out there, whether it be for sunrise, to feel the cool air and to see everything kind of wake up and see that first bird
Yeah,
ripple in your face, or the nighttime when the sunset,
yeah,
and that they're always so different. The slowing down, it's really helped because you know we're still here, we're still alive. There's people that have passed on, and they won't have
right.
the opportunity to experience the human experience, and that is the morning sun, the plants around them. So right now, it's a time to put into perspective the really important things, and what we should be doing more for ourselves to better our mental health, our health, whatever you call it, main health.
Right. Uh-huh.
you know And even, even with couples that, like if this is 60 days in, we're still alive. We haven't murdered each other. So it may be because of the tea we're drinking. We're just really peaceful. Because even warming it up, just boiling cinnamon, the smell of that in the air is like, wow, okay, it smells good in here,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you touched upon like what this time is for, and I know that's something that gets thrown out there, and I think I've even thrown it out there is self-care, and that looks different for everybody. But right now, let's be mindful, right? And let's go deep for that self-care so that we're taking care of ourselves in this really difficult time. I know that I'm very fortunate that I have a home, I have food, I have a job, that I'm really healthy and I have not gotten sick. But it's still difficult because it's a change from what our normal was before. So really go deep and try to figure out what you want that new normal to be for you going on, because that we're not hopefully going back to what that normal was before. That particular normal wasn't working for everybody.
yeah,
So we need something that works for more people.
right. And we'll never have a time like this again. Like you have so much people that have kids, they have time with their kids. I think I'm teaching
Yeah.
my dogs how to read signs, the signs and stuff. At least I feel that I'm teaching them. But even that time to be with my partner, and she knows what it feels like to be at home, because I used to work from home. You know what I mean? There was no
Right.
going. So there's all this new thoughts coming in, and how should we become a community now going forward, like thinking of these new practices and ways of being mindful to each other, like you said. So this was really huge. I really thank you for making time for us. It's just huge. It's really huge.
Well, thank you for having me. It was
No,
fun to get asked, and I always enjoy chatting with you, Mel.
I know it's fun. I like this better because I get to see your face. No, that's so sweet. I hope that all this, like we go into a separate place where everyone can be healthy around each other. And man, I want you to come back and talk to the community again at my shop, and maybe do more things. Where maybe just like herb garden time or something. I don't know
Yeah. Or
anything.
maybe we just pick a couple herbs and we make some tea and we talk about them. And maybe people will have questions and maybe not. But anyhow, I think that community talk is important.
Absolutely. That's my biggest thing, because a lot of, even right now, I know that there's folks that don't have the internet or access to the internet. So if they do have a cell phone and they listen to this conversation, I hope that the advice you've given them leads them to the path to better health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you,
Absolutely.
doctor. We'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.